Hello, I'm Meredith, and thanks so much for tuning in to this update. I want to talk about Jupiter in Pisces that's stationing retrograde tomorrow until October 18th. I'd like to talk a little bit about what that transit could indicate, and I also want to talk about the sun moving into the sign of Cancer tomorrow. Kind of a big day astrologically, and like in my blog and in my last astrology update I talked a little bit about how it's like this week is like bookend of very intense energy. So in the course of the week, I mean, though we still have this like ongoing Saturn Uranus square that's just becoming like more and less obvious as the year progresses. And right now we're in like a tight squeeze with that. Though this Uranus Saturn seems to have a different feel because Saturn is retrograde instead of direct. I think that regardless of whether or not people realize it, it is a powerful and interesting time in human history. And, so it just, indicates change and restructuring too on the micro and the macro both. And so Jupiter is going to station retrograde in Pisces. So I've been loving this Jupiter and retrograde, or this Jupiter and Pisces transit ever since it came in. I guess like it was May 23rd was when Jupiter moved into Pisces. And I've just been really, really, really enjoying and just loving how it's been feeling, because I'm a Pisces moon, and that's very natural for me to slip into that vibe of kind of like the Renaissance and, creative solutions and spirituality and like, the collective consciousness. And, Pisces also has to do with endings too, and fears, so I think in a way, I mean, there's a lot that this represents. There's a lot that this has to do with. And I think it depends on who you are and like where you're coming from, how you perceive it. Because there's a lot of like large scale spell work, I feel like, that's being done right now. But there's also just a high level of like magical energy, in my opinion, afoot, that like if you hop on that wave, you start to notice, just some of the magical things in your environment, or you start to, I don't know, it's like an inside out type of thing, but there is definitely a very creative, highly, spiritually cleansing and purifying wave, I think, to tap onto, that's also fun and lively and enjoyable and kind of humorous. But Jupiter pretty much fucking like sped through Aquarius. Like it was crazy, right? Like Jupiter entered Aquarius either the 17th or the 19th of December of last year, before the Great Conjunction, right? On December 21st, when the world was supposed to end or whatever, again. And, kind of moving into this like, this more air energy after Jupiter and Saturn conjuncting in earth signs forever, for years. So this is a whole different energy, and it's an energy of sharing. It's an energy of connection. It's an energy of invention and innovation, but it's also, an energy of like very shadow side kind of, technocracy, right? So we have like both energies present. And I think that, Jupiter really sped through Aquarius, and it wouldn't surprise me if, I'm more speaking collectively, if, toward the end of July, we have like an, oh shit, kind of moment where we're like, okay, because Jupiter really racing through Aquarius in the first part of the year, probably a lot of stuff happened that we're not even aware of happened. So maybe we'll find out, you know, some of those things as the summer progresses. I'm going to keep my eyes peeled for things of that nature. But yeah, so I think on an individual level, it's very much like, where do you stand? What are your values? What are your principles? How does that connect spiritually? And like, I think that's a lot of what this Jupiter retrograde in Pisces is about. Like, I have maybe like a different viewpoint of what karma is at this point in my journey. Like, I believe in it and I don't believe in it at the same time. Like, I'm not saying that I think that the law of cause and effect doesn't exist, or, you know, but I think generally, like, if people are good people and if they do the next right action after the next right action, nobody is perfect. And I'm just like, I kind of just wonder, like, about the lords of karma. Like, I'm just not, I don't know. I mean, it goes back to that Cameron Day article from, I think it was 2015, of like why I'm no longer a light worker. And that article impacted me greatly. But anyway, so all that to say, I think that in the event that you have been causing or sowing, you know, seeds that are not pure, not pure of intention. I mean, I don't mean to be puritanical, but like not pure of intention, then, you know, that could come back around, right? Like Jupiter retrograde is where, like, you know, where we're going to kind of circle back on the seeds that we planted. What was our intention behind the good acts that we do? What is our intention behind it? Like, do you need someone to see you tip them, or like, do someone need to see you do something good to prove that you did something good? You know, I think that's, you know, something that could come up as a little bit of like personal, like karmic, you know, retribution, you know, just personal karma sort of like coming through, so that you can see like, okay, maybe my motives were, I mean, that's the thing, that's everybody, like nobody here is a saint. So, you know, that's, I'm sure that will happen in waves for different people, you know. And I think that Jupiter retrograde in Pisces too really adds to the sort of life review energy. And I don't even mean that in like a morbid way. I just mean like, it's clear that we're not where we were, right? And it's clear that we're not where we're going. So in this sort of liminal, very like in between, very Dreamtime-esque kind of space that we're in, it's like, maybe, you know, you take a little review, you take a little pause, you look back over your life, you know, people from your past. And obviously that's like a retrograde, a whole thing, you know, so of course like people are like bumping into people from their past, because it's like Mercury, it's Saturn, it's Pluto, and now it's Jupiter. And pretty soon, I mean, the 26th, it's going to be Neptune. So that's like a huge retrograde station, though Mercury does station direct on the 22nd, but I'm going to do a whole other video on that, I think. So I want to take a second and pause that and come back and talk about the Sun in Cancer transit. So tomorrow, the Sun will move into the sign of Cancer. And, you know, the moon really loves to be in Cancer, but the Sun does not really like to be in Cancer that much, but it does mark a new season. This is the start of summer. So, you know, I think that it kind of like sets the tone for like the way that the summer plays out, in my opinion, like the astrology of the actual, you know, summer solstice or whatever. And I think that it's interesting, you know. I would say that with the Jupiter retrograde in Pisces, I mean, this Cancer season is going to be like peak life review, peak like looking back into the past. And I encourage you to like really look at like what your individual threads are. Like if you haven't like looked back through old, you know, family photos, or looked at old, you know, letters that you wrote your friends in school, or I mean, like, this is like prime nostalgia and like missing people that you used to know and like reconnecting. I mean, this is like, this energy serves really well for that. The other thing about Jupiter retrograde in Pisces and the sun in Cancer as well that I think it's helpful for people to be aware of is that emotions run so high, especially with like Mars and Leo, Venus at the end of Cancer. Like emotions are like running high, you know, and I think that that's something that like, I mean, it depends on the person. Like for me, I know based on like what I've learned about myself and my energy system that most emotions that I feel are not mine. If I'm feeling overly emotional, that means that like that is someone else's energy, or there's like a being or like something like that in my space that I need to address and take care of. So like I know that like some people it's different though. Some people have like more emotional definition, you know, and that is great. And that, you know, I think people like me and people who have more emotional definition tend to play nicely with each other because that's like a, you know, an opposite energy. I mean, I can so easily put myself in the position of someone else and cry with them. But then when I'm by myself for extended periods of time, like I'm pretty like centered, you know, so that's kind of why I don't know. I think that people who are like innately empathic have to be, you know, putting on their protection or engaging with some level of, you know, energetic hygiene and maintenance. And I also, you know, can always do better with that. I think we all can. Creativity is going to be so high. Like this is the Renaissance. I feel like, you know, at this point in time, it feels very there's such a strong like artistic thread and like an alchemizing pain with music and with art and with gnosis and with dance and with connection and with loving each other. Like that's kind of the vibe that this brings up. You know, obviously there's the Saturn Uranus square that's still ongoing. There's more aspects that I'm going to talk about in my next video, but I just wanted to come bring this like brief sort of like, you know, weekendish update so that, you know, I don't know. I just think that it's going to be, this is an intense transit, this Jupiter retrograde in Pisces. It'll station direct on October 18th, and then it'll come back into Pisces towards the end of the year, like literally the last day of the year, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I look forward to seeing what is unearthed by Jupiter retrograde in Aquarius from the 29th until the end of December. You know, as Jupiter, you know, moves direct after October 18th. I'm just interested to see kind of like what will go down. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this. I hope that you have a beautiful day and that you're taking care of yourself. And I will be putting out a blog and another video soon because I'm trying to grease the wheels and continually put out more content because I don't know, it feels good. It feels right. So thank you. Bye.